More reflections on judgment, the type of judgment that creates an inferiority-superiority position in relationship to others. Judgment is useful when one is in a paralyzing inferiority position in an either-or paradigm. Meaning, if one believes that certain things are innately more valuable than others, and that one is in an inferior position, an innately inferior position, then judgment can be useful. And its use comes from the fact that it can medicate the inferiority or the superiority. So in an either-or paradigm, you cannot have a both-and. That transcends the paradigm. So the optimal position, which is neutral, because it connects us all to our underlying ecology, is balance. So if someone feels superior to other people, it's useful to knock them down to hopefully not a complete flip of now they feel completely inferior, but to more on a level playing field. Similarly, if one feels inferior to others because we are judging ourselves, if we cannot let go of the judgment to ourselves, it can be useful to transfer that judgment to others. For example, every child that is abused feels unlovable. In other words, they take the abusiveness of the parent, they make it about themselves because all children are self-centered at that stage of development. And they then conclude that their parents are perfect, but that they are unlovable. In other words, their parents' inability to love them is translated into I am unlovable. Well, if you believe you are unlovable, it is a tremendously inferior position. And so here you are in a tremendously inferior position in which you are locked in a prison of belief in which you are unlovable. This is a very serious thing because love is the exchange of nourishing energy that leads to growth and evolution. That's the game of life, is to evolve. You cannot evolve without love in at least its rudimentary form. And if you are unlovable, you are unevolvable. If you are unevolvable, you are useless in the game of life, which is here as an opportunity to grow, as to evolve, to become. And so it needs medication, it needs healing of some form. Now, if you cannot break out of the paradigm of either or, if you cannot break out of the paradigm of some things are lovable and some things are not lovable, which is a false paradigm ultimately, because nothing is lovable or unlovable. There are just different stages of development and different patterns of energy that can offer what would be considered love and some that cannot. Every single pattern of energy that ever has been, is, or will be is lovable, meaning one can engage with that pattern of energy in such a way that it receives energy in a pattern that allows it to grow and evolve, to move towards beauty, truth, goodness, to move towards grace, towards complexity, towards healing the illusion of isolation and separation. So everything is lovable in the most technical sense. But this does not mean that everything is loved in a technical sense. There's all kinds of things that are not loved for one reason or another because there's an incompatibility. The way that some energy needs love, I mean, you've got a can full of diesel and you've got a gas tank. If you pour the diesel into the gas tank, it's toxic. There's a certain amount of scarcity. So you know, it's not fueling the system, the energy pattern to put diesel in that gas tank. It needs gas, or vice versa. So you could really say and work with such a judgment, I am unlovable, and begin by flipping it outward and say, no, I am not unlovable. You are unloving. And so if you were capable of loving me, then I would receive love. You are not capable of loving me, and you are not capable of loving me, and you are not capable of loving me, so I am not receiving love, which is why I'm not loved. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. Now, up to a point, this medicates the dynamic. You're still caught in an either or, because the opposite is also true. Diesel can provide energy to something, but not everything. And so you could say that I'm not able to receive the energy and turn it into growth that you have to offer, and you're not able to offer growth in a form or energy in a form that allows me to grow. And so really there's a balance here where I'm not lovable in the way you want to love, and you're not loving in the way I want to be loved. And then we say, well, there's an equality there, which is true. I don't know how to receive your love in a way that you want to love, and you don't know how to love me in the way that I want to be loved. And so there's not a flow there, there's a friction. And that's a good place to be. But initially, if you're feeling completely unlovable and unable to get out, if you transfer that entirely out to the circle, particularly if you do it to like hundreds of people or dozens of people or the family rather than yourself, it's useful because if one person has to solve the problem of the whole system, it's very difficult. But if 100 people each have to change a little bit, it's like there's a debt. The business is bankrupt by a $100 amount, and you all get $100 a week paycheck. If one person has to take that $100 out of their paycheck, they have nothing for that week. But if 100 people each put $1 in, it's manageable. And so to solve a problem, it's best to distribute the problem amongst the widest group possible that are stakeholders in the issue. So the child is taking the unlovability of their parents' inability to love them onto themselves 100%. It's useful to give it back and say, no. You didn't take any parenting. You didn't take any psychology. You didn't learn trauma literacy. You didn't learn trauma repair. You don't know what PTSD is. You don't have a fucking clue, family. You don't have a clue, parents. Get it together, go read some books, and then we'll talk. This is a good movement for a pain-based, shame-based, ignorant system. So judgment is useful. It's also an anesthetic. So if you're in too much pain to deal with the other person directly because it's just too painful. Judging yourself as inferior or superior will protect you from a certain amount of that pain. So you've got pain management. And the other part of the equation is, just to be aware that it's always balanced, meaning every system has a certain amount of competency, and every competency level produces a certain amount of well-being and a certain amount of suffering. And if you're judging yourself and others, you're in too much pain to really engage empathically. You're in too much fear of pain to engage empathically. That means that you are incompetent to create more well-being so that you could engage empathically. And it means that everyone around you who is judging or defending against judgment is also engaging with reality at a level of incompetence that is leading to a pain that is so high that judgment as an anesthetic is valuable. But if you are judging or defending against judgment, then you are in more pain than you can deal with without the anesthetic of judgment, which means that you are not competent to teach other people, to change your environment for yourself and others, and it means that they are not competent either. So the idea that you know exactly what's going on and you can figure it all out and everyone else is stupid doesn't actually add up, because if you really knew how to switch the dynamic, why haven't you done so? And if they really knew how to switch the dynamic, why didn't they do so? It's all very well for them to say, you're wrong, you're ruining my life, da 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 da. Okay, so let's say you say, fine, I'm the spouse that's ruining your life. So why haven't you found a spouse that you're not complaining about? You see, that's their problem. If they really felt that all they had to do was say goodbye and pick up another spouse the next day that they'd live happily ever after with, they'd do it. And they wouldn't have to sit there and nag and complain to you. But the truth is, they don't believe they can do it. Because why? They're incompetent to solve that problem. So instead, they're trying to solve the problem of turning you into someone they wish you were, because it would be more comfortable for them. And they're incompetent to change their feelings. They could enjoy you the way you are, however quirky that may be. But they don't know how to do that either. And so judgment is useful as pain management. It's useful to diffuse pain that you're incompetent to heal in another way. But it's always mutual. It's always mutual. If you look out and say, hey, that's bad behavior. I'm better than you because I'm not doing that bad behavior. Well, you're not that much better because you haven't helped me avoid that, and your judgments don't help at all. And I'm in your world. If you really knew what you were doing, you'd figure out some way to deal with that. And so everyone has a problem. When there is pain in the vicinity, when there is fear of pain in the vicinity, everyone in the vicinity has a problem. And nobody wants that pain. Which means that if it's there, everyone present lacks the ability to heal, to transcend, to fix those painful problems. Which means that it's a shared challenge. We as a group are incompetent to solve the pain that remains in our group. If we knew how, we would do it. If you knew how, you do it. If you haven't done it and you know how, why not? Get your act together, do it. But if you've done everything that you know how to do and there's still a lot of pain present, that's when judgment comes in as a useful anesthetic. Not to solve the pain, just to numb it, because you don't know what else to do. Judgment is a pain management protocol for chronic incompetence.